Have you ever just stopped and wondered if we all see the world in the same way? I mean, really see it the same way? Well, that's the pretty wild question we're digging into today. Does the language you grew up speaking actually change the colors you see? Let's get into it. So, to kick things off, get this. In the Russian language, there isn't one single catch-all word for blue. What an English speaker might call light blue and dark blue are, to a Russian speaker, two completely different colors with two totally different names. And that one little fact kind of throws a wrench into our basic assumption that blue is just, blue. Okay, so before we go too far down the rabbit hole, let's back up. Let's start with the common sense view, the basic biology of how we all see color in the first place. On the surface, it's super simple. Light bounces off an object, let's say a blue flower, and that light zips right into your eye. It's a straightforward physical event that happens a million times a day. Now this is where the real magic happens. That light hits the back of your eye on your retina, which is just packed with these millions of tiny, specialized cells called cones. These guys are basically the biological sensors for all the color in the world. And what's so fascinating is that pretty much all humans have the exact same hardware. We've got 3 types of these cones, and each type is tuned to a different primary wavelength of light. One for red, one for green, and one for blue. So since we're all working with the same equipment, it seems obvious that we must all be seeing the exact same reality, right? Well, as it turns out, modern science tells a much, much more complicated story. It seems that our universal biological hardware might be running some very different cultural software, and that software is our language. This brings us to this really cool idea called the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, or linguistic relativity. The main takeaway is that language isn't just for talking to each other. It's actually a tool that helps your brain carve up and organize all the messy, chaotic information your senses are taking in every single second. It's like a filter for reality. Now, we need to make a really important distinction here. The old school, extreme version of this theory, the idea that language completely determines what you can think, that's been pretty much rejected. Of course, you can think about something you don't have a word for. But the modern, softer version is widely accepted, that language strongly influences our thought and, crucially, directs our attention. And honestly, there is no better way to see this influence in action than by looking at a fantastic case study. So, let's talk about the color blue. Just look at this breakdown. In English, we have one main category, blue. Yeah, we can say light blue or dark blue, but they're still just flavors of the same thing. In Russian, though, there's no single word for blue. There are 2 completely separate basic color words, голубой for light blue and синий for dark blue. And this is the part that really hammers the point home. For a native Russian speaker, голубой and синий aren't just 2 shades of the same color. No way. They are as fundamentally different from each other as red and pink are to an English speaker. They are just 2 totally distinct categories. So this all leads us to the big scientific question. It's a cool language quirk, sure, but does having 2 separate words actually change how a person's brain physically perceives the color blue? Well, some researchers decided to find out. And the results of their experiment reveal this absolutely fascinating dance between our biological hardware and our cultural software. The experiment they designed was brilliantly simple. They showed both English speakers and Russian speakers different squares of blue and just asked them to quickly say which one matched a sample. But here was the trick. The key moment was when the 2 shades they had to tell apart crossed that critical linguistic boundary, from what a Russian would call голубой to what they'd call синий. And the results? They were stunning. When the colors crossed that language boundary, Russian speakers were significantly faster at telling them apart. And not just by a little bit, but by a really clear, measurable amount. Their brains literally reacted more quickly to the difference. So here's the crucial takeaway. This isn't because Russian speakers have better eyes or some kind of supervision. Their hardware is exactly the same as everyone else's. It's because their brains have been trained over a lifetime of speaking their language to pay extra close attention to that specific boundary. That training created a kind of cognitive shortcut, which primes their visual system to spot that specific difference almost instantly. It's all about the software. So what's the big lesson here? What does a little study about the color blue really tell us about our own lives? Well, it tells us that the nice, clean line we like to draw between our unchanging biology on one side and our artificial culture and language on the other, that line is incredibly blurry. We don't just sit back and passively receive reality through our senses. we are actively using the tools of our culture, like language, to help build that reality. And that leaves us with a pretty powerful thought. Reality isn't just something we passively observe, it's something our culture actively helps us construct. So it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other parts of your reality are being shaped, filtered, and built by the words you use every single day?